Hey guys, this tutorial is going to cover the basics of creating a Final Cut Pro project from start to finish. This one's for total beginners, so if you already have some experience, check out the intermediate level tutorial I'll be posting on this channel soon. Let's get started. I'm going to be breaking this tutorial into 3 sections. 1, importing video. 2, creating a project in basic editing. And 3, sharing your video. Now the first thing you have to do is open Final Cut Pro, which is this clapperboard icon right here. So double click on that. Will bring you into Final Cut Pro. Now, if you've already used editing software like iMovie, you're probably familiar with the layout. But if you're a complete newbie, I'll just explain the setup. First of all, you have down here your timeline, and that's where you assemble your project. This section up here is where your clips are stored. In the middle, in the center, is the video monitor, the playback. And over here is the inspector window. Now, right now, there's nothing in here because you haven't imported any footage yet. So the first thing you want to do is import some footage. And to do that, you need to create a library. I've already created a library for the beginner's tutorial, but I'll create another one just to show you. So you'll go to File, New, Library. I'll name it December. And as you can see, it creates a library and it also creates an event for me. Events are a way of categorizing and storing your video footage. So it will just by default create by the date, but I will call this CP. Okay. Now I would strongly recommend always using an external drive when you're working with video because it just takes up so much room, especially if you're working with 4K video. So there are 2 ways to import video, and I'll show you both ways. The easiest way is to just drag it in. But if you can't, sometimes you're unable to do that if you're importing from an SD card or something. So to do that, you will go to this little arrow right here is the import key. So you hit that. And LaCie is my external drive. And I'm going to create a video using clips from a museum that we went to recently. So it's the American Heritage Museum. And I'll just gather a few clips. So I just gathered these 3 clips. And over here, you'll have to make some choices. Copy to the drive, but I always choose that. You can either add to an existing event or create a new event. I'm going to add to an existing event that I already have created. And then here's something really important. Down in transcode, I would highly recommend importing your footage using proxy media. Now what that means is it will import it at a lower resolution just so that it makes it easier in the editing process, because if you're trying to edit an optimal resolution, it's just going to slow everything down. So if you create proxy media, which is video at a lower resolution, you can use that for the editing, and you also will be importing optimized media. So when it comes time to share your project, you'll just transcode everything to optimize and export it that way. It makes it a lot easier to do. So I'll check both of these and import. So that's how you import clips. In the next section, we're going to learn how to create a project. To create a new project, you're going to go to File, New, Project. And you're just going to name your project, whatever you want. And you can choose the video resolution. I'm going to stay with 4K. But everything else is pretty standard. You don't have to change it. You can just keep it. Press OK. And there's your project. Now, I have I copied the 3 clips that I imported to this event right here, American Heritage Museum. So these are the clips that I'm going to use for my project. In order to bring the clips down into the timeline, you can either drag it down manually, or what I like to use is shortcuts. Makes your life a lot easier. E brings it to the end of the timeline. I'll just put a few in. The shortcut W will bring your clip in between or wherever your playhead is located. This line right here is your playhead. And if I click on this clip here and I press W, it will insert it in between the other 2 clips. And getting around in your timeline, if you want to use the shortcut FN plus the arrow key, the right arrow key will bring it to the beginning of the project. Pressing FN and the left arrow key will bring it to the end of the project. And then the shortcut Command and arrow keys will bring you to the beginning of each clip. So if I do Command and left arrow, it goes to the beginning of each clip. And you know you're at the beginning of a clip when you see this little L line here. That signifies the beginning of a clip. By the same token, if you go to the end of a clip, I'll go back 1 frame. You see the reverse L. That's the end of that clip. So let me just continue bringing down. Now, there's another shortcut, and that's Q. Q will do what's called a cutaway. So instead of bringing it to where the playhead is or at the end of the timeline, Q will bring it to where the timeline is, but it won't be on the primary timeline. It'll be on a secondary timeline. For example, if I want this to be a cutaway, I'll use Q, and that will go there. So when you're playing your project, by the way, pressing the space bar plays your project, and also pressing the space bar stops your project. So it's like a toggle. Play, and then it cuts away to that clip, and then it cuts back. So those are the 3 shortcuts, E, Q, and W. Now, what else you can do is, if you want to lengthen or decrease your clip, you can just grab it and pull it. So now that I've put all these clips in my timeline, I want to add black solids to the beginning and the end so I can add titles. So in order to do that, first let me explain what these icons up here are. This is your clips. This icon shows photos, music, and sound effects. And this icon is for titles and generators. So if we expand that, we see that there's a lot of different titles you can use, and there are even plugins that you can add. I've added some Pixel Film Studios plugins. And then generators, these are things that are generated by Final Cut Pro, like for example, backgrounds. And there's also elements. You can add shapes, you can add lines, and again, you can add third-party plugins to this as well. So I want to add a black solid to the beginning of my project and also one to the end of my project. So I'll highlight it, then I will click W because I want it to go where my playhead is, and again at the end. Now this defaults to 10 seconds of video, which is too long. I don't need it to be that long. I only need it to be half that size. So I'm going to drag the end and pull it back until it's only about 5 seconds long. And you know how long it is by clicking on it, and it will tell you up here. That's 4 seconds and 8 frames long. And then, so this clip right here, if I click on that, that's 27 seconds and 17 frames long. So that's how you know how long a clip is. Another thing I can explain to you is these 3 icons underneath the viewer. Transform, clip, or distorts your, it's a way of manipulating your clips. This balances the color. You can do match color, enhance, or match audio. And then this one is the retiming effect. You can make slow-mo, fast-mo, reverse, speed ramps. These are all things I will go over in the intermediate level tutorial. Next thing I want to do is add titles. I like to have a beginning title and an end title to my projects. So I'm going to go up to my titles here, and I'll grab a 3D title. I'll grab the basic 3D, and I'll drag it down. Now I want to make this bigger, and the way for doing that is you can either, a shortcut is Command and plus will make it bigger so you can zoom in and see better. And if you don't need it to be that big, you do Command minus, makes it smaller. So I have my basic title here, and I just want to name this A Visit to the Museum. And at the end, I'll do a different title. I'll go to the build in, build out. And I'll grab energetic is nice. Now, to manipulate the titles, you go into this window here, which is called the inspector window. And you can click in here and change the text. And there are other things you can change as well. You can change the font. I'm going to click that, and any of these fonts would work. You can change the size, etc. You can change the color by going to Face, click Show, and you could change it to, for example, blue if you wanted to. So these are all elements that you can change regarding the text. Then up here, I'll explain what these icons are for. This is the inspector window, so this will change the elements of your, or the appearance rather, of your titles. This one here will change the transform, crop, distortion of your clip. This, you can change the color of your clip, the saturation, make it more or less deep, and the exposure. Again, I'll use a regular clip here. If you wanted to increase the exposure, make it brighter or darker. These are things I will go over more in the intermediate tutorial. But back to the basic tutorial. We're coming near the end. So this is how you add your clips. You add solids, you can add cutaways, you can add titles. I'm going to add some music to this. So we're going to go to the icon over here for music. And you can add anything that you have in your iTunes. Or, if you want, you can just add your own music. So I'm going to add a song that I already have in my folder. I can just drag it in, and it will add it. So there's my song. Now, this song is too long for this project, so I'll cut it down a little bit. And the way I do that is I can drag it. Or there's another way of doing it. I can set in points and out points. In point, you press I. Out point, you press O. So I'll drag this down, pull this out to the beginning. Okay, so this is an audio file, and audio files have their own unique circumstances when it comes to editing. What you can do with the audio file, because it's separate from, this audio file is separate from the audio in these clips here. You can raise or lower the audio by dragging on this line and either going up or dragging it down. Another way of doing that, it would be to click on the clip and go over to the inspector window and raising the volume this way to go up or this way to go down. And then you can manipulate it further by using the option and then clicking in it to create little keyframes. And then you can drag down the audio, or you can drag it over. And that will fade it out. So for example, you'll be playing along and then you want to, and that's that. Now the last thing I want to add to this project is transitions. Over here we have icons that I'll go over in the intermediate tutorial. But for purposes of this video, I'll just go over the transitions. Transitions, obviously, going from one clip to another, and there's a lot of them. I'll just use dissolve, a couple of dissolves. You'll grab it and drag it over. I'll do that on the beginning. Well, I'll do that right here. Let me just add some. I'll add some transitions. And there's a lot of good ones. Here's one that I like, lens flare. That's a good one. And then finally we'll do a fade out, fade to color. And that's the end of the project. And the next step will I'll go over exporting or sharing the project. So the first thing you have to do is, because we used proxy media, we have to go back and optimize the media. So we go up here to this view menu here, click on that, and where it says proxy preferred, you're going to switch it back to optimize original. And it might take a few seconds or a few minutes to render out. This little icon up here shows you the status. It's like a clock. And that's the status of, if you open that up, the background text. It's a background tasks. It's rendering right now. And then when that is finished, we're ready to export or share. So you have to make sure that your project is selected. Go up to this little button here, the share button, click on it. Now you can choose a destination. There are lots of different destinations. You can either go to DVD, you can export to your hard drive or external drive, or you can go to an email or directly to YouTube or Facebook. I always save it to my external drive just because it gives more control. And I like to keep a copy for myself. And then from there, I can then publish it to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It just gives me more control. So click on that. It's going to bring up a menu. And you can give a description. And then under settings, you want the codec to be H.264. That's the common one that works best with YouTube and everything else. Obviously, audio and video is what you want to choose. It's in 4K resolution, and we're going to be using QuickTime Player. That's the default. Settings, info, click Next, and then again, you're going to save it, and it's done. When it's done sharing, you'll get a little message saying it's successful, and then you just open it up, and there it is. I won't have you watch the whole thing, but you get the idea. So that was just a very short video for the basics. If you want to go in more depth, you can watch the one I'm going to be doing on intermediate level. That will be a longer one. So thanks for watching.